Good afternoon, everyone. All right, that's good. We want some energy here. So, Josh's going to tell you to ask questions. You definitely ask questions. It's after lunch. You know, we got to make sure we get this thing pepped up. It's dark in here, so let's make this interactive and have a little bit of fun. So, I'm Brian Benson. I'm an innovation consultant here at Bright Idea, and welcome to our workshop, Pitch: Taking Innovation to the Next Level. Over the past couple days, we've been talking a lot about what makes for a successful innovation program, building your foundation, tracking the right metrics, getting the appropriate level of buy-in, and knowing when to make a pivot. We hear terms like innovate or die and reference the cautionary tales of companies that refuse to make that pivot while consumer needs changed and technology advanced. I want to tell you about a local success story here in the Bay Area, and a household name you're all familiar with. Just over 100 years ago, in Oakland, California, the Electro-Alkaline Company was formed as America's first commercial liquid bleach company. Today, they are Fortune 500, fast-moving consumer goods company you all know as Clorox. Why have they been able to succeed where so many others have failed? By taking an innovative approach to creating, developing, and marketing their products. Today we're going to talk about one of Clorox's signature crowdsourced innovation events, Innovent, and how they're leveraging the Bright Idea app Pitch to set themselves up for the next 100 years. And I'd like to welcome Josh Robinson from Clorox's Open Innovation team.
Thank you very much for thanks for the kind introduction there, Brian.
All right, so we're going to start off with a softball. Like our fearless leader likes to do, an easy one with a good answer. So what is it that got you in innovation, got you thinking about innovation?
So I think it was kind of in my DNA from a young age. So I was the type of student that, like, if I was in a class and it was just kind of regurgitating stuff I already knew, it was really boring. I didn't really engage. But if it was something new, if it was really exciting, I was there. So I think this really came to fruition. I was in college. I was majoring in chemistry, and I saw that I was going to my classes, I was getting engaged, and then I got involved in a research lab. And it's like, all right, I'm not learning stuff from 50 years ago now. I'm like creating the new technology of the world. And so I started actually skipping classes to be in the research lab as opposed to skipping classes to like go to the bar or something like that. And that was around the time I was like, maybe this should be what I go into. So that path led me to decide to go to grad school, which was still a question if that was a correct career path or not. So I went and pursued a PhD in chemistry with a focus on nanobiotechnology, which is not a term many of you guys have heard of because it's a very new field, and that's what attracted me to it. It wasn't like an old, like organic chemistry has been around for 100 years. Bio-nanotechnology, I kind of made up that term for my thesis. So
how did that work?
Maybe, I graduated. They let me get out. It was actually really a great way to go through grad school because I was getting to like create the field. We were the first people taking certain materials. We were the first ones to take graphene and make it a biological use. We were the first ones to do a lot of things, which makes it really easy to publish papers and really easy to graduate early. So that's my innovation background, what got me excited.
Awesome. All right, so you're this young, brilliant mind, just leaving college, armed with a PhD.
Young, broke mind.
Broke mind,
Yep.
broke, brilliant. But what was it you were looking to do? What were you going to do with this knowledge you had?
So I was sitting there in grad school, about ready to graduate. I had a lot of papers in an area that had zero commercialization possibility because no one really wants to stick pencil lead into your bloodstream to cure cancer. So usually that leads you into the professor route, but for a variety of reasons, I was like, I don't want to be a professor. I want to move into industry. And I had a friend of mine, my wife's college roommate, had been working at Clorox, and so I was like, hey, they're hiring PhD scientists, PhD chemists. I'm ready to go. I applied, and I did not get in. They kindly said thanks, but no thanks. And so I actually ended up at a medical diagnostic company called Beckman Coulter, and they had a 1-year scientific development program. And this really intrigued me because I was like, I'm doing all this research in the lab, creating like this whole new field. This is awesome. There's zero chance no one's ever going to see this stuff. But with the business scientific development program, it's like, all right, I'm going to combine some science, combine some business, learn how to actually commercialize stuff that gets into people's hands. So I did a 1-year rotational program. It was really nice because I got to pick the sites I went to. So it was 4 months in each site. I kind of arranged it: fall in LA, winter in Miami, spring in Indianapolis, where I'm from. So that was a nice little planning on my part. And so I ended up a job there and kind of transitioned to a role as a product manager for particle and protein characterization. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but you're basically probing the new frontier of like all biological medicine and new materials. And I was excited by the job quite a bit.
All right. And so how long did you stay there?
So I was there for about 2 years, and then I got a call from my old PhD advisor. And this was in the middle of the snowiest winter that Indianapolis had ever had. And he's calling me back from the Bay Area. He's like, I'm going to start a company. I'm putting in all my own money. You just have to show up and help me found the company. I was like, all right, back in the Bay Area, no snow. I got no kids, no home. I can pack up and go. So after 2 years, I came back out to the Bay Area to start a biotech company. Drove on out with 3 bags of clothes in my car because my wife was still finishing up a job for another 3 months. It was kind of like the Silicon Valley, the HBO show. I don't know if you guys know that. It was kind of that nightmare. It was really similar. Like, I'm in an apartment. I don't even have a chair. Like, a month into being out here, a buddy was coming over to watch some DVDs. And I'm like, I need to buy two chairs, I think. Like, he can't just sit on the floor like I've been doing for 4 weeks. And so got the startup going. Super high stress, but it's, you know, you're in innovation there. You are creating the new. If you're not the one creating it, company's gone, you're out of a job. Your wife gets to say, I told you so, with a big I told you so. That was not what I wanted to have happen. And it really gave me a innovation through the fire hose is how I describe it. I learned everything from innovative waste management techniques to save money to PR, and really focusing a lot on R&D to understand what a customer needs, what they're willing to buy, and what investors are willing to invest in. And we had a funny story where basically Silicon Valley, the show, came out the same time we were starting the company. And I realized watching that show, it's like a horror movie for me because I'm like, I'm living this. It's all the painful moments everyone else is laughing at. I'm like, this just happened to me. We actually, one of the ideas pitched on that show was one that we had pitched to a startup accelerator like 2 days earlier. And I'm like, I think we stole this from HBO. We're screwed. So
you didn't get a writing credit for that?
No, I somehow got into the accelerator. So apparently they weren't watching the show, because if they were, they'd be like, this is the exact same thing that this actor had just pitched. So that was where I found myself a couple years ago, was in the startup, high stress, tons of innovation, decent amount of frustration.
All right, so were you long for that world, or you're looking to, maybe do something a little different?
So I was actually grabbing beers or whiskey one night with the same person at Clorox who had tried to recruit me over a few years before. And I was basically complaining about it. It's like, I love being in the startup world. It's great, like, it's exciting. We're looking to create all these partnerships. I'm meeting all these great people, like peer networks growing. But there's no resources to do what we need to do. Like, to execute the ideas that we're like coming up with, we just don't have the financial backing. There's no structure in place. We don't have any of the resources around. And I'm just airing my frustrations. And she's like, hey, by the way, there's like a job opening in this open innovation group at Clorox that kind of has everything you want, doesn't have any of those frustrations you have. So I went back to my computer that evening and applied, got a call the next morning, and now here I am in the open innovation group at Clorox.
All right. So yeah, you mentioned that you weren't quite ready to join Clorox like right out of school, and then you got this education working for Beckman Coulter and then for the startup. So when you joined Clorox, did you feel you were ready and that the culture lived up to the reputation?
Yeah, so to answer the first part, I am very glad that Clorox rejected me the first time around. The chance to go external, work in a couple different fields, work in areas that really kind of were partnership focused, customer focused, networking focused, gave me a really strong breadth that I might not have had if I just stayed within one company. And I think if I had joined Clorox right away, I might not still be there. Whereas now I've came with all that background experience, I'm able to be a much more productive team member and get to do a little bit more exciting projects right off the bat. And so when I joined Clorox, it was one of those pleasant surprises. I'm like and I'm like, this is a 100-year-old company, but it really is, it's pretty innovative. They're like, they're walking the walk, they're talking the talk. I think I got that right, maybe vice versa. But they had events all around innovation. All their R&D teams were kind of focused. There was an innovation piece to each one. They had an annual idea competition, just company-wide, to bring out innovative products. And the team I was on was all about the new, the greatest trends, the next partnerships to go to. Our areas like covered with cool-looking gadgets of all kind, and it's like, it's the environment that I wanted, and it had the resources. So if we wanted to go pursue a project, it's not like we're going to beg some VC for money and hope that our company doesn't go under in the 2 months since then. If Clorox goes under, I think, well, I really screwed up if Clorox goes under because of me. So,
yeah.
Whereas the startup, if it went under, it was on me.
Right. So maybe talking about some of those events, one of those was InEvent, which is what we're here to talk about today. So you tell us what InEvent was like in those days and how long it had been around?
Yeah, so InEvent was a company-wide innovation challenge that basically submit your ideas for new Clorox products, and it had been around since 2011. It was a pet project of a former CEO that we had, and it kind of took off when it was launched. People were very excited. They have a lot of projects to share. And so it'd been around for 5 years when I joined. And I was really excited when I heard about it. I'm like, so, there's ways to get products out there throughout the normal channels. Like, it's not that usual 3-year process. If I have a good idea, it's going to get acted upon. I love the mindset behind it. I love the vision behind it and the enthusiasm. I didn't really like the execution quite so much. And so here we actually have the first idea I submitted, which wasn't very good, by the way. It was a really bad idea. And that's not really, it didn't draw me. It's not a fun interface. It was really clunky to use. And despite all that, we still had a pretty good amount of participation throughout Clorox. I think the first year, about 625 people participated out of an 8,000 person company. And we were able to see some really good successes from this program. Do you want me to speak about the structure a little bit? Or?
Sure, yeah, give people some background on how the flow works.
Yeah, so basically it was organized into 3 rounds. The first round was whatever idea you have that's Clorox focused, bring it on in. We want you to put some thought behind it. We don't want just one sentence. We want you to have thought out, hey, why is this cool? Who's the customer? How is this going to go to market? Is this feasible for us? So we want people to have some more thought than just oh, we should buy a race car company. And so all the ideas came in. There was kind of crowd voting from all your peers to see which ideas moved on to the second round. So it was based on number of comments and number of votes on ideas, indicated which were the top 20 ideas. Top 20 ideas then gave a business summary, 1-page business summary that was presented to the executive committee. The executive committee would choose to sponsor roughly 5 ideas a year. And each idea had one sponsor on the executive committee. So 2 years ago, the CEO sponsored an idea. So they were really under pressure to do a good job with it.
To make sure that went through. So
yeah.
What kind of returns were some of these ideas generating?
So we had the first product to make it to market was Glad Matchware. And this was out of the 2012 InEvent. And it was pretty straightforward. Hey, I got Glad products. I want the lid to match the container so I know which one goes with which. It's launched to a couple $1 million of increased sales from Clorox that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It was brought together. So basically, I forgot about the last piece of the InEvent competition. So after you pitch your idea, you get the 1-page pitch, the executives approve of it. Then you get 2 months to craft a 10-minute business pitch in front of them. You get to pull together a team. You get 4 or 5 other team members with 10% of their time committed to you. You're going through entrepreneurship training, like how to build a go-to-market slide, how to get agile and lean, really scrappy to get consumer feedback. Teams are given a nominal budget of $2,000, which is just enough to realize I don't have any money to do anything with. And so this team was composed of people from design, from R&D, from marketing, and from creative communications. So it was a team that's really cross-functional, and that's how we encourage these business pitch teams to go really cross-functional, get everybody in who might have a completely different perspective. They launched, it was successful. It took about a year and a half, I think, after it went through InEvent to actually hit the market. There might have been a delay somewhere in there, but basically these 5 ideas that are pitched in front of the executive committee, it's Shark Tank style. If they get funded, it gets put into a business unit. The business unit commits resources to it, and they try to make it go to market.
Yeah,
And more often than not, they're successful. First one was Glad Matchware.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, question.
Oh.
Yeah. So the teams formation, right? Like the people, is that volunteer based, or how did the person with the idea get to go pick the people for their team?
The person with the idea goes and recruits people to the team. It's volunteer based. You are asking for 10% of time, so it's not 100% everybody yeses in. Some people will be like, I kind of swamped these 2 months. Maybe you go this person, maybe you go that person. I did a team this last year, and I got probably 2 no's for every 1 yes. I think that's probably pretty typical, but Clorox is a big company, and we got a lot of talented people, so you're able to scrap together a pretty good team. I was really happy with my team.
Is there any pushback from managers or just from the actual people?
It's not that the managers are pushing back. I didn't hear from anyone's manager saying, hey, why are you taking my person off for 10%? It's just people, certain times a year they'll get busy, and they just recognize that, like, hey, my plate's full. I can't push off the work that I'm basically being evaluated on throughout the year. Whereas other people are like, yeah, it's a slow time. I got some time to commit to this, and I would really love the face-to-face exposure with the executive committee to have the chance to meet the CEO, the CFO, and have them hear me pitch an idea.
Just a follow-up question.
Yep.
So you have the person pitching the idea, and then they ask for volunteers. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Now, if they aren't able to find volunteers themselves, or if they're in a function that doesn't really work with other functions, the people running the program, myself and a couple of my teammates, will help find them teammates. So we'll help facilitate if they're not able to do it on their own.
And what sort of size team were you looking at, or was there optimal size, or?
The teams are almost always 4, 5, or 6 people, so they kind of keep it pretty small, and we do encourage it to be very cross-functional, so we don't want all 4 people from sales or all 4 people from manufacturing or something like that.
Okay, and the support team you were talking about, were they part of that team, or they come in later once they made through the pitch?
You have to
team?
make it through the first 2 rounds as a single person, championing your idea, getting people to vote for it, building your business case, and then after that, you get to build your support team of 4 to 5 people to build that pitch in front of the executive committee. So you have 2 months to work with them, and then you're pitching in front of the executive committee with that group.
Okay, so first step is basically your involuntary group, but second step, you get that support sort of team.
The second step is actually, it's a handoff of the idea to the business unit.
Okay.
So that team will no longer really be involved in executing, because we have a really good ability to execute projects within Clorox. We've optimized that after 100 some odd years. You'd hope we would. So it kind of goes into the business unit, and the teams can stay involved to some degree if they want, but it's really a straight handoff to the business unit at that point.
All right.
More.
So the business unit that takes over each idea, do they go grab the idea, or is it a tell from one of these executives to you're going to go execute this idea?
It's a tell from one of the executives. So basically the executives are evaluating. They're the ones who are going to be committing resources in that room to fund the project, and they're going to be carving out of their budget to make it happen. So it's not 100% perfect. Sometimes, ideas kind of get dropped, and it's like, well, we thought we had funding, things changed with the business. We're going to have to put this project on delay. And so sometimes you'll see a project that you thought might come out in a year, gets delayed a year, comes out 2 years later. So it's a work in progress, and this is something that next year, as I talk about our program for next year, we're going to try to get more business unit involvement early on so that they have more of a stake in each project and they have more input early on. And the most successful products, the ones that do hit the market and kind of go seamlessly, are the ones that have communicated with the business unit they think that it will live in ahead of time. So they're aware of, hey, we got this product, we got this commercial innovation coming down the pipeline.
All right. So
Another question.
One more question, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Good more. All right.
sure.
Thank you. Hey, Josh. So for the business units, are you the only source where they bring in the ideas, or do they have? Are there any channels that they actually take in all these projects into their area?
So let me make sure I get the question right. So you're wondering, is this the only way to feed ideas into business units from outside the business unit? Or
No. So it would be the other way around. So for the business units, right? So they have all these different projects in, right? So,
Yep.
You're one channel that actually put it in. So are you the only channel, or do
No,
they have?
we are. They have their own internal channels and own. Basically, he's asking where do the ideas come for business units. So our Kingsford business unit is going to have their own pipeline, 3-year pipeline of ideas that they're going to be working against and they're resourcing against. And this is kind of a side channel to bring in additional ideas. And since we only have 5 ideas pitched in front of the executive committee each year in this competition, maybe 2 to 3 go forward, and we have 9 different business units, it's not a major source of ideas for them. It's really a way for ideas that wouldn't otherwise be able to get into the system. So someone, like if I have an idea for Kingsford, I am not the person who is defining strategy for Kingsford. So I wouldn't be able to just get my idea in there unless I started talking and networking with a lot of people. And my boss might be like, why are you spending all your time hanging out with the Kingsford folk? So this is a way really to champion ideas that otherwise wouldn't survive.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do one more. And then
All right, one more question, then
Sorry.
we'll get back to talk.
How do you deal with IP for this? Do people have to have submitted patents or something before they submit their idea onto the InnoVent website?
So this is all internal. It's all internal employees we've all signed away our patent rights. So there's no IP around it, no IP protection around, because if you have an idea within it, Clorox already owns the idea. And if it's an idea that there currently isn't patents around, but there needs to be patents, then the team will work to get that in place.
Got it.
But this is entirely internally focused, so there's no external people, so no real worry about conflict of IP, who owns what.
Yeah, and then the person who originally championed the idea, after the business unit takes it, that initial person's gone from it? Like, do they stay involved? Do they go work on it? Do they get a piece of the revenue? Is there any sort of non-recognition based reward for that?
Yes, so they will help with the handoff, by the way, so they will help make it a smooth handoff to the business unit. And we have a reward. There is a monetary award that comes with it. It's not tied to revenue because we don't want it to just be about revenue. If you have a great idea for a cultural change or something like that, there might not be direct revenue, but there is a set amount in place that people get. So there's a monetary award. It's not life-changing. No one's made a millionaire off of this, but it's enough that people are a little excited about it.
Okay.
All right. Great questions.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about another product.
Yeah, thanks for being awake, everybody.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so there's another product that came out of the early years of InnoVent.
Yeah, this one came out from 2014 or so, 2015, and this is one that's, sometimes people have ideas for great products that might not be the most comfortable thing in the world to talk about, but they're like, hey, I see a need out there. And so this was from InnoVent Idea Ant Flow, and it was a cleaning treatment that hit stores last year. So it was about 2 years from InnoVent to hitting the stores. Once again, a couple $1 million incremental sales to Clorox expected from an idea that, basically the ROI on these ideas is huge because there's $2,000 in resource to a team, and they're creating these $2 to $5 million ideas.
Right. And so to be clear, like that revenue sits with your team for how long? So how long you attributed to that?
So we look at the revenue for the first year as kind of incremental sales to the business, and then from then on, it's already baked in. So we're looking at how much money are we making the first year the product's on the market. And the funding for this event comes out of the Open Innovation team.
Okay. And then post first year, the revenue just sits within the business line.
Yeah. Open Innovation doesn't get the revenue either. It's
No.
not like we get the extra, hey, you guys made $5 million extra, here your budget's $5 million more. It's just a nice pat on the back, and we get to keep our jobs a little bit longer.
It's very much a good thing.
I'm all for not being homeless, so that's why I like it.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, it's a bold career strategy, but
All right. So now these ideas all came from before InnoVent was part of Open Innovation.
Yep. So these were the first innovations or first years where it wasn't part of Open Innovation. In 2016, Open Innovation team took over this. So we got this part passed over to us, and we really wanted to shift the focus a lot. So before, a lot of it was very product focused. We wanted to bring in and get people thinking about more commercial innovations, more business model innovations, because new products are tough to make. You got to work on manufacturing, and they're easy to think of. We want to challenge people's thinking, make them think more innovatively. So there's a lot more focus on expand the range of products and ideas that would be brought in. And there's a lot of focus placed on the entrepreneurship training, because we want people to be able to go back to their jobs and take the scrappy work that they're doing in our program and apply that to their day-to-day job. And so to date, we've had, I think, 190 people have gone through the entrepreneurship training. We bring in external people who are in the startup space to lead these trainings, people who work on crafting VC pitches. And we basically tell them, hey, this is like a venture capital pitch you're doing. You're trying to get funding for an idea from a group of people sitting around the boardroom who have suits on and act like a Shark Tank. So just treat it like that. So these people have gone through that experience and now bringing that same thing back to supply chain, to manufacturing, to open innovation team sometimes. So.
All right. So the process is making its impact across the company, revenue and culture shift, and capabilities-wise.
Yeah, we see a pretty strong growth in Clorox from innovation-related sales and innovation-related revenue. And we have to think that part of that is due to this innovation entrepreneurial mindset that we're infusing throughout the company. It's tough to quantify exactly, hey, we made X amount of dollars because 190 people are entrepreneurs now. But you see the range of products we have, and I can speak to a few of these in a minute, and you'll be like, these weren't people who were just punching a clock to come up with some of these ideas.
Exactly. And you mentioned that you had this new focus now with Innovent coming under R&D, so it wasn't just product-based, but commercial-based, what have you. So there's one idea in particular we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so one of the ideas that came through was Burt's Bees Natural Launchpad. So this is a business model innovation. I have to say it's the most brilliant idea ever. Not coincidentally, it came from my boss. So I mean, brilliant idea, great idea. But no, it's a really interesting one. We didn't necessarily want to run a corporate VC arm, and we didn't have necessarily the pieces in place to devote the resources to run a true accelerator program from recruiting startups through a demo day. But one of our business units, Burt's Bees, really wanted to be connected to the natural space. So what they did was they had this natural launch pad where 10 natural startups in any space that doesn't directly compete with Burt's Bees, so anything other than like lip balm or cosmetics, could come on in, and they got a $10,000 grant. They got a 2-day training session with the Burt's Bees and Clorox executives on how to build their company, so business development training, marketing training, sales training. They were part of a 10 startup cohort, so they now had this peer network in the startup space and in the natural space, which is even more difficult to navigate. And Burt's Bees took no equity, but the one thing that we asked for was the right of first refusal. So if they're going to go sell themselves, we want to also be involved in that bidding process to have a chance to acquire the best and brightest. And the first cohort went through in 2016. I believe one has already been acquired. So 10% success rate is pretty good in the startup world.
That is quite good. And then what other value did Burt's Bees get from this and kind of making this investment?
So I think we heard from the stakeholder, one of the GMs with Burt's Bees, was basically like, hey, if we don't acquire any of these companies, it was still worth it just for the presence, the PR around it, the social media awareness, and the beacon that we provided to the natural startup community of, hey, we're on your team, we're here, we're a good partner to work with. So there was a lot of kind of that soft metrics around the social media buzz that we were able to attract that was really positive and was worth the investment in the program.
Right. I think we have a couple products up here on the table.
So I can point out some of the interesting ones. So one is regrained bars. This is based in San Francisco. They took spent beer grains and made granola bars. Some people really like the taste of the granola bars. I might be a little bit more picky myself. We have essential wipes, just kind of a simple wipe on the go when you just need to kind of, like you're at the gym, you want to furl or wash your brow real quick. Just have this, very easy to go. And then an essential oils line called Calma Mama. I had a couple more, but as I was bringing them here, people took them from Clorox. They're like, oh, let me try that. And I was like, okay, I'll bring two. But so we had a lot of great companies come out of it. We had our second batch just successfully go through 2 weeks ago, and the Burt's Bees has committed to a third year for it as well, which is beyond what was even initially pitched in Innovent. So,
oh, it's pretty great. So now you've got Innovent under R&D. You're getting this change in ideas, and more changes were coming.
Yeah. So we had been on you guys saw the old platform. it didn't wow you. It wasn't user-friendly. It kind of looked like a message board from the 90s. So around mid-2016, we started evaluating. We're like, we need to bring in a platform that's going to make it really easy for the user, have single sign-on. They go on in, they see some graphics that are going to excite them, make it really easy. Go in, click, submit your idea. And so we brought on Bright Idea in November 2016 to run our annual idea competition in 2017, which kicked off in mid-January. So Brian, myself, and a colleague, Adam Petler, had about 6 weeks to put the whole competition together on Bright Idea. And it was a complete failure. That's why I'm up here talking right now. It was just awful. No, it went great. We had the highest engagement that we'd ever seen. Out of an 8,000 person company, we had almost 2,000 people participate. We had 126 ideas, which was the most to date. We had 800 comments, which was by far the most to date. And that's one where we really saw value, because people are putting in ideas, and that's great, you have your own idea, but we see a lot of value from people building on ideas. From like, all right, idea X is great, but have you thought about why? Well, if we tweak it like this, and then you just kind of see it grow and grow and grow and get more excitement. And that's where we saw each idea on average had 8 comments building on it. And so it was really successful. We were able to incorporate the single sign-on, no problem. And now we actually could get data analytics on it. The old platform, I had 0 information besides how many ideas were submitted, how many people went in. I couldn't tell you how often people went in. I couldn't tell you what the rate of ideas being submitted were. I couldn't tell you what functions they're from. So now we know, hey, this function, product supply under indexes a little bit, marketing over indexes. So now we can change our PR message when we're putting out the campaign next year. So it's been pretty nice.
Awesome. Oh, just got a question here.
Yep.
Just a question in your process here. Your voting, I found that voting's not always reliable for various reasons. Like, there's campaigning, the ideas come in late, the earlier ones get more ideas. Do you use that as a input for your next phase, or it's like, how do you leverage that voting?
So the voting is what we use to decide which ideas go on to the second round. So basically the top 20 ideas based on votes and comments are the ones that are going on to the second round, with 2 additional ideas selected by the OI team. Adam and Ken and myself, who are on the team, decide 2 additional ideas that we think are really in line with what the business units are working on. But the thought is that in this first round, we have so many ideas come in. We have 126 ideas come in. We can't possibly evaluate them all with a careful eye. So, it's like in the startup world, you might have the world's best idea. If you don't have the passion to go out and raise awareness around it and build some enthusiasm around it and put some thought into it, you're not going to be able to go forward, even if you have the best idea. And our thought is, if you really love your idea, you're going to go out and talk to your peer network. You're going to talk to other people in your function. You're going to email out and be like, hey, go look at my idea, vote on it, comment on it. Yeah. And so we think that first round, it does kind of get the people who are just more passively adding ideas versus the ones that really have passion for it. But then from then on, there's no crowd voting. It's all executive committee decision.
Yeah. Now, I can see the value in that, because you're basically using the crowd to sort of narrow down your choice, and you save all that time in evaluation, which is fantastic. Do you have a separate window, voting window on ideas? Like, how long is it?
Yep. So we kick off the competition. We have 6 weeks for people to submit their ideas, and then we have 1 additional week for voting only and commenting only. So there is that additional time, and we do a lot of marketing around, like, hey, 1 week left, go out. We'll kind of send out those newsletters to the company to let them know there's 1 week left, go out there. We'll have it in our R&D and company-wide town halls, broadcasting to the whole company, like, this is your chance, go find out the ideas you love, help support the ones you love to make them get to the next round.
And maybe if you just walk through how long those second 2 phases take?
Yep. So the second phase, where the top 22 ideas, the 20 that were voted on and 2 specially selected ones, they have around 10 days, I believe, to put together a business pitch. And our team will hold office hours to help them craft that business pitch for people that aren't familiar with that. And we have a template that they can work off of. So if you are completely new to the process, you're not hopelessly lost. And then the third round lasts for, I believe the ideas are selected end of March, and you're pitching mid-June. So it's about 2.5 months to craft this 10 to 12 slide business pitch for the entire executive committee.
And the criteria to move to 2 to 3?
Yeah, criteria for 2 to 3. So those 22 ideas, we actually get the executive committee, sit them in a room for a couple hours, present all 22, and the executive committee will choose to champion one. So basically, say our CFO will be like, I want to sponsor this idea. I really like it. I'm sponsoring this idea. I'm going to like lead the team. Now, he's not going to be involved like on the day-to-day operations, but he's a resource that idea submitter and the team he builds or she builds can use to leverage. So and only ideas that move forward are the ones with executive sponsors, and typically we see 4 to 6 of those ideas move on.
But is there a pitch at that point, or the pitch comes later?
No pitch at that point. That's just closed room. These were the ideas that moved on. The pitch is at the very end.
So you discuss those ideas. You don't get the idea presenters to come in.
No. The idea presenters just put together the business model.
And then they review it, and then they. Okay.
Yep.
Do any of the ideas? Are there any of the ideas that don't have executive support? Are any of those ideas moved forward?
Nope. You have to have someone on the executive committee decide that this is an idea that's going to fit within a business unit. If your idea doesn't move forward, we see a lot of people take an idea 1 year, submit it again the next year because it might not have been the right time for it then, but a year later, that's when it fits the business need.
Do you have then a terminology for projects that are like shelved or killed or what? Do you have anything that, to keep them from being a negative connotation, I guess?
So we don't have any sort of terminology around ideas that don't move forward. We pretty much just champion the ones that do move forward and say those not selected, feel free to participate next year with your great ideas. We have a culture within Clorox that's pretty understanding and it doesn't get too hurt if their idea doesn't move forward. And so it's a pretty positive culture in general. We tend to celebrate our successes, and then our failures are just viewed as more of like a learning process. And that's why we see like someone will submit the same idea 2 years in a row and the second year get through because now they realize this is the passion I need and this is how I need to incorporate it in with the business strategy. So,
is there any chance that Clorox would be open to hosting other companies to come in to look at your innovation system?
I think that's above my pay grade. No, I mean we work with a lot of external vendors. Some of them are in the innovation space. We work with a lot of different companies that help design our research and innovation, and so that's just a constantly evolving process. As you're a 100-year-old company trying to keep up with the 5-year-old, Casper mattresses of the world and Cliff Bars, we gotta be constantly innovating on our innovation. And I think Bright Idea is a good example of that.
That's right. So we're going to talk about one particular idea that came out of this year first, and then maybe touch on a couple of other things. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, go for it.
All right. Josh, so, this is a great program. I mean, lots of great nuggets that I pulled from. So what did you do with the ideas that did not get selected? Did you actually purge them out, or you just leave it there as a reference library for folks to come in? And
We're leaving it there as a reference library. We don't expect or push people to use it as a reference library, but it is there for historical context. And I have a little pet project I was mentioning, Brian, that someday I really want to take some sort of natural language processing tool to all the ideas that have been there year after year after year to see how the themes evolve over time, to see if we are actually becoming more innovative in the ideas we're submitting. Are they all just product focused, or are we moving more towards partnerships and business models and different commercialization activities and consumer focused things? So this is a nugget of mine that eventually someday I'll get to, but for now we'll keep them as a reference library, and if people need to look back, they can.
Great. That could be a Bright Idea product model.
I think I might mention that to Genevieve this morning. So.
All right.
But that's similar to the innovation fund app that came out. It's similar.
Sorry.
It's similar. The process steps are similar to the iLab. Sorry.
So really, the process that we use here is very closely tied into pitch. So that was the app that was used, for this for an event. So we, talked about it as we got started in late, November, and it,
It's a pretty quick conversation. It's like, all right, we have all these apps. How you want to run your innovation program? We're like, well, it's it's a business pitch in front of the executives from a bunch of ideas narrowed down, and Brian's like, all right, we got a pitch app. Let's see how this works. And so it was really intuitive once we saw, hey, this is what the pitch app does. This is exactly what we need to do for our program. The one thing I'm thinking, though, in the future is we could use some of those other apps to help those round 3 teams as they build out their presentation. They could have that workspace in there, and that might be pretty good.
So with the platform now, are you going to continue to do this event, or are you going to try and scale it off the platform?
So that's jumping ahead a little bit, but we
Yeah.
do have plans. We do have InEvent 2.0 in mind for next year. And so what you might have heard me mention is a lot of the ideas coming in, $2 million to $5 million ideas, which are great ROI. But we really want to chase those $50 million ideas and $100 million ideas. And those, to really make them happen, they have to have, right now we have a completely wide open innovation context. Pitch whatever idea you want. What we envision is having business units tell us what their big problems are and what they're trying to go after, the general category for these big ideas, build those in as kind of guardrails into the competition, and then have the business units be involved very early on to help collaborate on these ideas as they grow, perhaps do hackathons to really test them out early on. It's still a work in progress on what we're going to do, but that's the next evolution for this contest, we think. And we probably...
That's just a mechanical question about the selection process. We've done similar events, okay? And in a big company, a lot of executives, and the executives, if they're in front of an audience, they're reticent to, select a winner and obviously create a bunch of losers. Do you do it at an event, or is it have an audience in any way?
This is like a Shark Tank with the TV cameras shut off. So you go up to the top floor of the Clorox building in Oakland, 24th floor. You're in their executive boardroom. You're pitching in front of them for 10, 15 minutes. 5 teams, 6 teams pitch, and then it's a closed door session with no one but the executives and then the facilitators in the room, having them talk about the ideas and which ones are going to go forward.
Is that intentional on your part, or is that the kind of way it was done when you came in? Is that the way it was run?
That was the way it was run when we came in, but that's the way that we've thought through, and we want to keep it that way. Because we do have a positive culture within Clorox, but part of that is people would not be willing to share their true ideas if they were being broadcast out to 8,000 people. Because sometimes you do have to say, hey, this idea is not going to go forward for these reasons. And you might not want to share that reasons company-wide. It might have to tie the strategy in some way that you might not really want to broadcast.
It's painful. I just tell you, it's both ends of the spectrum for me, because we've done it both ways, and I think that the sad part about that is that lesson never gets taught then to everybody. I know it's painful, and you don't want to make it personal, but it just, I understand exactly what you're saying. So,
and there are notes shared with the team that are more comprehensive about why it didn't go forward, and there's a little blurb company-wide on, hey, this was selected, this needs some tweaking, not quite ready for business unit, or Clorox decided not to go forward.
do you ever go back, if you did, I'm sorry, I'm asking a follow-up question, but did you ever go back, like, did you really have a product that came back a second year and was selected?
Yes.
That wasn't
Yeah.
selected? Did you ever go back and circle back why that was selected in the second year as maybe a lessons learned for other people to see where an opportunity lies?
I don't think we've actually really championed what happened, why that second time. That's been happening a couple times. Several ideas have had that happen. So that's a pretty good idea to just basically highlight how you can take your idea that failed one year and turn it into a possible winning idea. I like
The
that.
final one I would have is, do the executives, are they really looking for transformational, or are they looking incremental? I mean, do you have to coach them to go more, to go bigger, or are they thinking that already?
The new InEvent 2.0 going after the bigger idea is championed from our CEO on down. He's on board. They want the big ideas. They want the ideas that they can champion Clorox as an innovative culture to their shareholders out there. $2 million ideas aren't going to really make shareholders care about a $6 billion company. But if we start getting $100 million, $200 million ideas out of this, that's when you're like, hey, Clorox, beacon of innovation, not just within the company, but to the larger CPG world as a whole.
Sorry, another question. So is it because the people aren't thinking big enough in their idea, or is it because the executives aren't picking ideas that have that transformational capability?
I think so. This is a little bit of speculation on my part, but with a really big idea, you need a lot of resources.
Not air covered.
Well, it's more that we already have our 3-year plan, 5-year plan for each business unit on what projects they're going to attack. Adding a $2 to $5 million project onto that doesn't really kill their resources. They're able to absorb it. If you ask them to add on a $100 million idea without them being bought in, they're going to say, I don't have the resources. There's no way we can execute this. So that's why we want to get the business units involved from the start, have them declare their problems so that they already have this space and resource carved out so that it can fit in. And we think that's one of the bigger hurdles preventing it from going forward.
Yeah.
And we'll test and find out.
Yeah, and I think that.
So last one, I'm sorry. So is
Please.
the problem based off of customer input, or is this a industry-based problem? Like when you're going to because this is really, I think this is a common level of pain here. So when you go to the business unit, what problem are they solving? I mean, is it truly they're looking for new markets, or are they actually dealing with something that's business related?
So our business units they have different tiers of research projects. Some are just looking for, hey, Burt's Bees wants a strawberry lip balm out there to complement our pomegranate lip balm. And some of them are more going after new markets or new technologies. And some might be just, hey, we want to create a whole category on our own. And so those ideas have kind of different levels of rewards. And I think we'd be encouraging our business units to select ideas for Innovent 2.0 that are of that more broader scope.
Yeah. So, what value do you think there is directly about getting the business units involved earlier, aside from like championing, problems or issues that they're trying to solve or where they're looking? But what else, you think will make this effective?
Well, getting their expertise in early is also awesome because this project that someone's championing who's not familiar with the business unit, they might not realize that this idea has already been pitched 2 years ago and died for reasons X, Y, Z. But if they pivot it, it might be successful. And having the business units in there might help avoid hurdles that have already been hit before.
Just why would they care? I mean, why would they bother? I mean, how do you make that engagement happen?
So, well, first off, because our CEO is pushing it down, so that's one reason to care. But I think it's not difficult to get people excited when you say, hey, we're going to be chasing after a $50 or $100 million idea. This is going to be the thing that you need to boost your growth for the next 2 years. If this works, you're awesome. Like, hey, maybe this doesn't fail, but you want to create that nugget in their head, like, well, if Josh is right, this could be really big. If all his assumptions are right. And so I think we can craft it to the business units in that way, particularly with some top-down pressure from their bosses saying, hey, get on board with this, that we're not going to hurt for a lack of problems.
Oh, question up front.
So it's great that you guys are doing some training on the pitch itself, but that's later in the process, round 3.
Yep.
A lot of folks that are in the round 1 side doing elevator pitches to get others to buy in don't have the skills to do that. So do you do any training or basics to the masses related to encouraging them to grow some basic skills, to do elevator pitches, to onboard other folks on their ideas, things like that?
So we structure our idea submission to be pretty complicated, to have a lot of questions that we think they need to have thought of ahead of time to build that elevator pitch in. So they have to think about the consumer ahead of time. They have to think about the market ahead of time. And it's very much a passive training, but we think the idea submission form itself gets people in that mindset where they can talk about the pros and the cons of their idea, why it's going to be big. So if you're able to fill out the submission form, you should be able to talk 30 seconds to your peers about why it's a great idea. We even have a section, hey, why do you think this idea is awesome? So
yeah, it's kind of like a mini business model canvas almost, the way you have it set up.
So it hits a lot of those, and so that's a little bit passive. We also do have all our entrepreneurship trainings available. So if someone wanted to go seek those out, they might not be able to sit in the hour class, but they can go download the presentations from the past 5 years that have notes on them, and I believe there might be recordings. So it's not something we're trying to keep hidden. It's just there's only so many people we can have actively participate.
Okay. So now we're talking about thinking bigger and moving forward. What are some of the other metrics that you're looking to improve? So we're going for higher ROI, but also you're reaching probably a quarter of the company now. We're trying to do more. So what other ways are we thinking about to achieve a higher number?
Yeah, I think we'd really just want to see a higher participation across the board in all functions and really measure like, hey, how is each function participating in an event? I think one thought we have is manufacturing index is a little low. They don't have a computer in front of them to enter in the information. So when I heard about the Alexa app, my mind sparked like, all right, the Alexa app in the break room, that's one way to get our manufacturing plant out in Rogers, Arkansas, to be talking about ideas and submitting them in. So that's one thing we do want to get higher engagement. And we'd love to see more diversity of ideas, just more innovative ideas, more out there ideas. Products are great, but going beyond the products to really transformational things, you know, talking about digital transformation. If someone had a great digital campaign, that'd be amazing. Like, hey, let's digitize this process within the company. That'd be an awesome innovative idea to see, and that's what we're hoping to see more of.
Right. Well, speaking of awesome innovative ideas, we probably should at least talk briefly about the idea that won this year.
Yeah, so the idea that won this year, 3 ideas were selected to go forward. This one actually, so in June, the Kingsford plus Movember partnership was pitched, and it was selected to go forward as the winner. And just last week, a press release went out saying Kingsford and Movember are a partner, $40,000 donated to Men's Health, expected $2 million bump to Kingsford revenue without any change in product, just a social media campaign, and hopefully blow it out with new bags next year. And we had these nice little mugs to Kingsford campaign, mustache on one side, all the executives got those in the pitch. And
Whose idea was it?
so that idea may have come from me while me and Brian were building the platform. I put it in there almost as a joke, and I was like, this idea might have legs. And so I put together my team, which was all female. So in the pitch, as the only male, I was the one who had to grow out a mustache because I'm championing.
Was it a real mustache or?
It was a real mustache. I spent 6 weeks growing it. I will never grow a mustache again. My wife hated it. I hated it. And so the first time the CEO sees me pitch, I got this cheesy mustache on. But
So next time you go back, you're gonna have to grow a mustache. To talk to CEO.
Nope. I highlighted in the presentation, I'm like, I grew this mustache for this project. That's my passion, because I hate this mustache, which is a little tough because our CFO has a really nice mustache. So I was, in a way, digging on him a little bit, but they took it well.
All right. So that really brings us to the end of our presentation. So we're talking about how Clorox used one specific event to, help position themselves for the next 100 years. They've survived the first 100, and now they're changing the way, that they're using this one event to go from $2 million ideas to $5 million ideas to 50 and 100. So as you see here, the number of products that Clorox touches is amazing. The first time I saw this slide, I realized that 11 of these items out of 14 are in my house, and I had no idea. And Josh can maybe talk to some of the other products that are up here, like Brita water filters, and there's a nice story there.
Yeah, my teammate, who's on paternity leave right now, he got to do a nice little program around Brita, working with Steph Curry's agent to write copy for him. And me and him kind of split work, so 50-50 chance I got that project, but instead I'm up here chatting with you instead of Steph Curry.
I know. Sorry about that.
Apparently I did something wrong. We do try to come up with some innovative things. So this is our Soyve very, very teriyaki sauce. These people are on Shark Tank, and they're acquired by Clorox. And we actually created a partnership earlier this year with them, with Chef, which is a company that goes into your house and cooks meals with their own food. And we're a big company. We could have funded this ourselves, but we wanted to see if this idea had legs. We actually ran it as a Kickstarter campaign. It received Kickstarter funding, and now there's a Soyve plus Chef partnership. And I'm bringing Chef in for a brainstorm next week on a different project because they like partnering with us, and they're pretty friendly folk.
That's pretty awesome. All right. So we've got just a couple of minutes left. Any other questions from the audience? All right.
Can you describe what your entrepreneurship program looks like? Like, how long does it take? How you train people? What topics?
Yeah, so it is a 2-month program. So it goes throughout pretty much the entire round 3. So round 3 is 2.5 months. 2 months of it, there are weekly events. So it's anywhere from a 2-hour to 6-hour event once a week, and it covers a variety of topics that you need to build a business pitch. So it's almost like an accelerator program within Clorox. So they'll have go-to-market classes. They'll have ways to get the voice of the customer in scrappy ways. So, hey, this is how you can do easy surveys. This is how you can go do consumer research. They'll talk about different things that you're going to need to build into the campaign, understanding how to crunch the financials and estimate a market size. There's a class on that. So there's, I believe, 8 classes in total taught by people who are really experts in that area. So our new business development group teaches the market size estimation. We have an external person come in, teach the go-to-market class who's involved with consulting with a lot of startups. So It's a pretty involved program. It does actually take a decent amount of budget to bring in these people, and we are asking people to carve out a lot of their time, but we get feedback that we run after the survey for all the teams that go through. It comes back as probably their second favorite experience other than pitching in front of the executive committee, which many of the people are meeting for the first time.
You could almost like capture videos and create an online version of that. So rip save when such like comes.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, and just kind of have if you can't attend in person, here's the video for it. If you're just interested in entrepreneurship in general, go to our training area and look up the video.
We'll put that information.
I got some ideas I need to jot down here.
Luckily, this is being recorded.
Oh yeah, all right, there we go. Well, where's the Alexa app? I'll put in the bright idea.
That's right. Yeah, Allison, where do we put that?